No.
I don't know how I feel about
I have nothing to hide.
All right, here we go.
Are you going to turn that down?
Yeah, I'll turn it down. Just make sure we're going there. There we go. All right. We are going to stand by screen.
So anything we say is live now, right?
Anything you say is live. It's all
Anything you say is live, right?
right?
I apologize.
We'll take this out to the Slack channel. That signal.
Did they really? They're still around? Hey, Mark Fancher.
Mark Fancher in the house.
What's up, Houdini Mark? I love your face. That's live. We now have that on record.
Yeah, it is on record. Okay then.
They kicked him out of the plane and he actually parachuted out of the back. Oh, that's hilarious. That's really funny. Right, I was...
I'm from Detroit. I know what's up. Glenn's here. Steven's here. All right. I think we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and take us live here on the interwebs, and this is us right here.
I apologize to everyone because I'm eating food literally
All right.
on camera.
Well, when Barton comes in or Mark, we'll get him on. And... All right, y'all ready to go? We're gonna switch off. I think some other people are straggling in from some other places and events tonight, so we're gonna start here, and we'll just do regular intro, and you just say all the people and things.
Okay.
So we'll do that. Ready?
Yep. I guess. You're recording, right?
Am I recording? That's a good question. No, I'm not. Good call.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Wow.
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 All right, we're rolling. And 402.
Wow.
Okay, weird. Okay. What's up, and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Oh my goodness.
Joining us today is everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone from Half Res.
Half Res.
2019.
Woo!
Say hi, everyone. Hello.
Hi, everyone. And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. And you can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. We got lots of people here at the round table. We got some people who are going to be filtering in and out of here, depending on how much they had to drink before they headed over this direction. We'll see how that goes.
Or how many ounces of steak they had.
Or ounces of steak. And yeah, so we are chilling at our Air Bro and B, as we used to call it back in the day.
Now it's just the Air Mo and B.
Yeah, now it's the Air Mo and B. Everybody accepted. And so we saw a couple of our friends tonight. And a few friends. And people who are here early for Half Res, which is nice. We're really excited about tomorrow. We got a lot of friends presenting.
Yeah.
We're sponsoring the event as well.
Oh yeah, we're doing that too, aren't we?
Yeah, we're not a big we're not a big head honcho sponsor, but we're a little sponsor,
We're
so
no
that's
Max
good.
on.
No, that's true.
Yet.
But really looking forward to it. I think there's some changes and things going on as we've noticed, and yeah, so we're excited to see what it's like this week and everything, and or this year, and man, we've just been so busy. Yesterday, this is like the second live show in a row.
Yep.
So 2 days in a row. So we're going to try and come up with some topics. We've got mainly what we're going to start out with, I guess, and we'll probably come back to as well during this, is the topic that came up in the Slack today.
This is going to be basically the topic for the next 3 podcasts. So just be prepared.
That's true. That's
Easy.
true.
Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah. There was a huge discussion today about schools and motion graphic schools and online schools as opposed to brick and mortar schools and which one is better. And everybody seems to have a different opinion, which is great in my opinion, because there's like, I don't know, there's the thought that you go to a school and you get cultured like in other areas,
right?
You know, like, I don't know. You go to school and you learn about history. You learn about science. You learn about all these other things. I'm so worn out. Like, I don't have anything else to talk about. You talk about all these other subjects. You learn other things. You learn other people's points of view. And you're going there and you're getting this all-around education. You know, you're not just learning motion graphics. If you go to a school online, you're learning just motion graphics. So there was a lot of discussion about that.
You know, like some people talking about that. You know, if you go to a art school, I specifically went to an art school. You know, and I hated it. I don't recommend it. Art Institute of Dallas can go suck it. Don't ever go there.
Too late
yeah.
for you.
Episode brought to you by Don't ever go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, and we literally just learned how to like push buttons and stuff. And the problem I think with that school was that a lot of the teachers were just former Art Institute alumni, you know, who couldn't actually work in the industry, so they came to teach theory.
Those who can't teach? Is that what you're saying?
And those who can't do teach.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's of course there are teachers that are absolutely amazing, but I do feel like that there are some that couldn't quite get there in the industry, so therefore they teach, and that's not.
I mean, that's why we started doing training on.
Exactly, right.
No, that's why we started doing tutorials.
Right, but no, really, I think that there are some people who are really great teachers, and there are some people who are doing it because they couldn't quite make it, and it just really depends. I mean, there's no like one school that's going to have any teacher that's going to be. I mean,
this
you
is
could
a
go
really
to a community
deep subject for as late as it is.
I
just have to say,
there's you know what? There are community colleges you go to. Like I went to community college, and I had like the most amazing video teacher.
Yeah,
you know.
And that was high school for me. Yeah. I had a great video teacher.
You just never know.
He ended up stealing a bunch of money from the school and got fired for it, but still, he was great.
So not a great influence.
Yeah.
So, let's go around the table a little bit, and I don't know where Barton is, but Mark, you should get on microphone. Just get on microphone so you can talk to us.
Nah, Ben, come over here. Ben, come over here. Yeah.
So we'll rotate around. Hopefully, we'll get some other people to show up here. And, so first of all, tell everybody your name and where you work.
Sure. I'm Ben Carmeli. I'm
Hi,
a
Ben.
full-time motion designer at an ad agency in Rochester, New York.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you came a little ways for this.
I came a little ways.
Cool.
I don't think as far as you guys, but this is my first Mograph event. So.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yay,
Nice.
welcome. Welcome.
Well, that's great because you're gonna get to really learn about like the whole community feel that are these events.
Well, I've been in some form part of the community for a few years, but that was always through it started with the C4D subreddit that Sage runs.
Yeah.
And
I
then
am also a moderator.
Oh,
I am
nice.
a terrible one, but yes.
Well, I mean, after a while, I think I like kind of outgrew that. So finding the different Slack groups was like really huge because the conversation was so focused and good, which is great because I have no formal art or graphic design background. I went to school for biochem.
Man,
See?
you're not the only
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Got like a David Ariev thing going.
Yeah.
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 I wasn't
Ariev was
good at
neuroscience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't good at it. It wasn't my passion. Actually, like you said, in high school, I took like one elective. It was like digital media. It was my last semester, senior year, and we got to use Cinema 4D for like 3 weeks.
Cool.
And I was like, wow, that shit was cool. So throughout college, I was kind of like using it just as a hobby, and then I did like one freelance job for a startup on campus. I was like, that's awesome. I could do it for a career.
So, what do you think
So
about?
how long have you been working in the industry?
Yeah.
Just a few years
Yeah?
at this point. Yeah. So it was kind of, it took me like graduating and having to sort of start from scratch and like really focus and teach myself. I had like some knowing my way around Cinema 4D, but no like animation skills or anything like that. So it was kind of after graduation, having some part-time jobs and like teaching myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think? What do you think about going to traditional school as opposed to going to an online class?
I took an SMM class. I thought it was
Which one?
great. Animation boot camp.
Okay.
And that was actually a while, a few years after I'd been kind of like teaching myself. So I thought it was huge. In a very concentrated amount of time, I got very good, like focused instruction that I actually appreciated a lot. And, what they say about it not being easy is 100% true.
Yeah.
It like really kicks your butt.
Yeah.
I think you have to understand the context of it, which is it's not a real holistic kind of education. It's a boot camp, so in a short amount of time they're going to try and get you up to speed with the very basics that you need to be able to do this as a job.
And as far as like, because this was talked about a lot, like, theory of say like animation versus like actually using the tools, like some people were saying, well, yeah, you go to some of these technical schools, and they'll just teach you how to use the tools, which is what I felt like the Art Institute did for me. It didn't teach me any of the theory behind it, and I wasn't really sure how that was with School of Motion.
Yeah, I actually didn't have a huge After Effects background at that point, which is a little backwards. I know a lot of people go from After Effects to Cinema 4D, and I had kind of started in Cinema 4D and was only using After Effects to very simply comp things. Very few effects. So I don't know what the experience would have been like if I had zero technical knowledge of After Effects. I think they say that you can take the course without having it, which makes sense in retrospect because since then I've used it a lot more. And like they don't touch expressions very much.
That's good.
So the idea of it is to kind of be able to use After Effects at a very basic level, basically doing like PSR animation, and some masking stuff.
Yeah.
But like focusing on principles of animation to get appealing work.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you go all the way through the course?
I did not.
That's my favorite question to ask. When we were at
It
the
was hard. I really thought I could do it, and then, at one point it was just like the assignments are really tough. I still though I feel like I got plenty out of it. I'm really happy with it, and it's there if I want to go back and.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's
Cool,
nice.
cool. Who was that?
Oh, that was Chad Ashley calling.
Yeah,
He's
it's-
trying to find his way here.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Cool.
he's on the way up. I don't know if he's with Smearballs or not.
I hope
we'll
he's
see.
with Smearballs.
I hope he's with Smearballs.
Alex, talk to us about your background.
Okay, cool.
Scoot in a little bit so
let's
that we
see,
can
okay, for
hear
sure.
ya.
I'm like center frame on that. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Chopjian. I'm a motion graphics designer full-time at a studio called Lunar North in Detroit, Michigan. We do a lot of 2D, 3D. We're venturing into AR, VR, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I mean, speaking of this education thing, I actually went to a private art and design college in Detroit, College for Creative Studies. So kind of that more, super expensive elite design education was where I went. And I actually kind of have a lot of opinions about what that kind of dynamic is, because we have this conversation a lot at our studio. Is online the route, or is this a route? But I kind of have like a unique bias in that, because the studio I work at is run by two people, Scott Warniak and Marcus Mullins. And Scott Warniak was my teacher at CCS, and two other employees also were students of his. So through taking his class in the graphic design department, now called communication design, I just like having a good impression on him. And while he was starting the studio up and he was trying to get his foothold, he kind of moved back from LA to Detroit to kind of start something up, and then kind of leaving that impression. While I was a student there, really passionate about it, even though I didn't fully understand the tools and the programs and stuff, having the enough determination to want to learn was enough to kind of, oh, hey, there's talent here in areas that aren't LA or New York or anywhere else like that. So through that's kind of how my career developed. I wouldn't say, though, I would go to, like, if I was going to go do motion graphics, I don't know if I would go to a school to do that, per se. If I knew exactly going in, like, I already have an idea about Cinema 4D. I already have an idea about, like, After Effects and the motion design community. I don't know if I would do that right out the gate, but I think for so many people who are at age, who are trying to get, who kind of allows you to do that if you have the right people, it is really luck at some point or another. But as far as like technical things go, it didn't really happen like that. I think it really comes down to like the student and what they bring. So if they're passionate about Cinema 4D, or they're passionate about the tools that are kind of being introduced, it wasn't really about which buttons to press. It was more like, these things are there, use them, here's some basic understanding, but it's up to you to kind of like dive in, go online, connect with people,
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. And then I think through that you build those networking and communications with other students, faculty, whether somebody comes in and out. That's the perks of that. But at the same time, if you're looking to like graduate and be like, I'm ready for a job, it might be tougher if you haven't spent the time to like take the chance and risk of maybe trying to do a freelance job, or let me see if I can do a personal project. Or you're not just gonna, if you only take what's taught to you in the classroom, I don't think it's enough. I think it's kind of what my bottom line is with that.
I agree.
So depending on that, then if you want to go further and do online, I think it's a good enhancement. But yeah, it's like it's an interesting topic though, because there is no right answer. It really depends on like the combination of the person, the program.
Yeah.
Really, it's
There's some people, and you're totally right there. It all depends on the person, because there's some people who are they go to an art school and they're very focused on the art and the theory and like design and stuff like that, and then you've got someone else who you'll send to an art school and they just want to focus solely on the technical part.
Right.
Like they'll thrive in the technical part, but when it comes to like good design, they just like they're lost. Or you've got other people who like can produce beautiful design but just don't know what buttons to press. I don't know. It's interesting. Did you lose Chad?
Where's Chad? He's not. Did you talk to him?
no,
You didn't talk to him?
no.
Oh, okay.
Do I need to go find
I was
him?
trying to connect the two of you online, and I don't know. So one of the things they were talking about. Well, I don't know.
Actually,
it's really hard to summarize the conversation because it was
3,000 messages long.
Yeah,
at least.
literally.
Yeah.
It's like getting ready to catch a flight. I'm like, something is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Not checking.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Boy.
Honestly, like there was a lot. Like it was a lot of like Ryan Summers thought one way, Brandon Parvini thought the other way, which I think is great because we're going to have both of them on the show at different times coming up soon, about whether or not the brick and mortar school, I guess that's what you would call it, the institution is the way to go or not. And man, I mean, like it's really hard for me to say. Like I'm looking through this and I see both sides of the argument.
Yeah, no, I get it too. You know, I really do think it comes down to, like Alex said, the type of person that you are. Hey, Blair Walker's on. Hey, Blair. It's like 10 a.m. where you are, or 9 a.m. Alex, I wanted to ask you this. We were talking earlier, and you said that a lot of the people who you work with were just designers turned, motion designers, right?
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Like the people that you're working with, like how do you, when they're hiring or bringing someone in or something like that, how do they know that they'll make a good motion designer? You know?
Right. I mean, obviously, you got to perform. So if you have a decent portfolio and you can prove that you can work relatively well and are willing to learn, I think you can get a foothold. But I think more importantly, it comes to like how you work with other people is very important.
Right.
I think,
Yeah.
right? Like aside from the technical side of what you can do, how you work with other people, but also like the thinking that is the foundation to what you're making. Because the tools change, but like the concepts, the thinking, it doesn't change as much. So as our tools evolve, look at how many new tools are added to our, we were just talking about it the other day, like now you gotta know substance, now you gotta know cinema, now you gotta know redshift, particles, like so many things, and they come and go. But the thing that is under all of that is still like, what is the story? What is the concept? Design principles. How do I break those? And then also, how do you receive client feedback? So like, those are so important that like those are the invisible things that I think make it more important than just like, here's what I know how to do right now. Here's this killer technical portfolio that I have. So to answer your question, I think it's just more so like your really it's all about that foundation that you start. It's the design thinking, I think, that is kind of the thing that we look for, I guess, in designers, and that's what's nice is that when we all come together and we have a project, we can all sort of be able to think about how this is going to work, not just for this shot, but maybe for like the whole project, thinking about things in systems, thinking about how we can use something that the client is asking for in a new and unique way without really getting bogged down like how am I going to do that technically.
How do you how do y'all determine, like, I don't know, have you ever had someone where they come in and they're like, I'm a designer, I'm not a motion designer, I just can't get a grip on the tools.
And get
you know what I'm
close.
saying?
You gotta be, you gotta be like
Not
right
too
here,
quiet?
really close. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
This is good stuff right here.
yeah.
We need to
Oh,
hear
yeah,
your
yeah.
voice.
I mean, yeah, I think at a certain point you do need to know certain tools. I think you can't just get away with like, I know how to be a good designer. I think a good designer can learn the tools, but I think you still have to, if you're going to be in motion design, I think you still have to know at least like some aspect to be able to kind of be, to be able to fit into the pipeline somehow, right? And maybe you can start out working as like a freelance designer in a project before you're doing any animation. You might be involved in that process. Maybe you're making frames, and then you can kind of shadow the people who you're working around and see the type of thinking that the animators start to bring. And if the animators can also kind of shadow the designer, I think that's where that blend starts to happen.
For sure.
And ideally, one person can be both of those things. And I think that's what our like studios like ours kind of look for.
Cool. Brad.
Well, let's switch a little bit. We're probably going to come back to that. Hopefully, if Chad can find this place, he
My
was.
Uber driver was like, "Oh, I think that's it. I can see people in the window." I was like, oh, "Yeah, that's helpful," because I was gonna like look around for a
Yeah.
while. Nice. So,
No, hopefully he'll find it. He hasn't. He sent me something, but I haven't heard back from him. So we'll see. So let's switch a little bit to business, and hopefully we can get Barton to come out.
Business
He's
ethics.
back in the cave somewhere back there.
I don't know. I hear him listening to some shows or something. What? Yeah, he's approving videos.
He's probably watching this live, laughing at us. We're going to talk a little bit about business as well, and Mark, you probably have some good stuff to say about this. I don't know, in the field of business training, I guess.
Here, Mark, come over here.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
take my spot. I'm gonna go find Chad.
Yeah. Ah, Billy's here. So, we're going to talk about business a little bit from the angle of the fact that when you leave college and you're learning motion graphics and you're just in that motion graphics mentality, sometimes it's very hard to go out and start working the business end of things. If you're somebody who graduates from college and says, "Oh, hey, I'm going to be a freelancer," you may have no idea. I mean, some colleges are offering a little bit of business, but there's a lot of people who kind of come out lost. I know that when I came out, I was completely lost, and I came back to the school to present, as a former alumni, to some business classes that were just starting. And that was their topic of conversation with a lot of them is, where do I start and how do I learn about all of these things? There's so many people that don't have that business sense at all. There's some things that you can learn as you go. Then there's some people who are like rock stars. They happened upon a good college class or a mentor or somebody who really helped them fine tune it. And so I guess the question really is, and Mark, you might want to get on this, is let's talk a little bit about the business aspect of it. You worked for was it an agency or was it what was that?
Brand.
Okay. So you worked somewhere else before doing the freelance thing. And
Wait.
yeah, there he is.
I hear some
There
commotion.
he is.
All right.
Chad Smearballs in the house, and Max on Rick. Oh man, everybody's here now. So,
You gotta welcome people to the
yeah, you guys got to help me keep this going here. We're gonna do a little bit of seat swapping here.
Yeah.
Pop out of a business discussion, as I don't have a ton to offer on that.
We will pop into the business discussion a little bit, but to keep things moving, I'm gonna try and see if we can get Barton over here, talk about some business stuff, and then hopefully Matt. Where'd Matt go? I don't know where Matt is. I got to get somebody on the mic here. I'm the only one on the mic. Barton, help me out here. So we're talking about business a little bit. Business. And you guys, and Mark, you were having a good, here, there's free mics here too. You were having a really good discussion before we started the show, actually, about business stuff. There are classes that you can take. And you can take these classes for, I guess, I don't know too much about these. You can take these classes for a pretty good amount of money, and they're supposed to teach you certain aspects of business, and motion graphics, whatever. I don't know. Hopefully, you can give me a little more insight.
Me?
Yeah, like come on the mic, yo.
Sorry, I'm
And-
trying to avoid it. Jeez.
So you don't have to mention any names, exactly what it was, who it was, or anything like that. But
Yeah.
these business classes teach you what specifically when you pay them money, about invoicing, about
well, to be honest, I've never had taken a business class ever. So
Right.
if I was gonna take a business class, I might as well take one that was like aimed at creative services. But essentially, just got to learn I don't know, business fundamentals that I didn't really know, and I don't know, it was worth. I think it was worth the tuition I paid. But
that's the question. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I
is
mean,
it worth the
I
money?
think it's going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
Have I seen immediate returns? Not necessarily, but it's not about that. It's about a long-term play and building knowledge. So
Because-
that's how I feel about it.
When you're fresh out of school, or maybe not necessarily fresh out of school, but new in freelancing, it can be really hard to know where to go and what to do as far as finances and business. I mean, even when it comes to sending somebody an estimate,
I mean, I have experience in this, but not nearly as much as other people sitting at this table. I've been doing it on and off for 4 years, the last year full time. Long story short, I'm no expert. It's trial and error. I make mistakes. I don't know. I lose money on projects sometimes, but it's a learning process, and you just have to build that time in. I believe that like you have to make those mistakes to make yourself better. Whether it's business mistakes, artist mistakes, things happen, right? Like
Right.
nothing's perfect ever, and you can always get better, and that's what's so rad about this industry. I feel like that you can
Learn from your mistakes.
learn
Keep
from your
going.
mistakes, but you can run a business sitting at your house.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you're not an electrician buying a van with all the tools that travels and
Right.
has to.
It's very low
it's-
overhead.
You know, it's a
Yeah.
trade, I would say,
Right.
right? Like in a way, but I don't know. I think we should all be grateful to be able to do what we can do, and you just try to make each project better.
And Barton, where did you learn, from a business standpoint, where did you learn everything business? Is it something you learned in school? Is it something you learned trial by fire? Is it something you learned from other mentors? Who gave you direction in what you do?
Business wise, I think it's been just a slow process of just trying to make decisions that make sense. No, I have no training in that area whatsoever. And I think it's just kind of figuring it out as you go, for sure. And just also just trying to figure out what is efficient, right? Because as you're a freelancer or even trying to run a business, you've got to do things efficiently. And so sometimes that means shipping a project out when it's good but not great, knowing that maybe the next time around you'll be able to make it great.
Right.
And making those types of decisions. I think as artists, it's real easy to just want to like tweak something to death and make no money on it.
Right.
And that's a big trap to fall into. So just always keeping that in mind as far as being able to make money doing it. And there are times, obviously, where you want to invest in projects and do more than the client's paying for, because the next client doesn't know what was paid for that. So you're boosting your portfolio and your resume in that way. But yeah, no training. I think it's just been trial and error and trying to do what makes sense. I think one thing though is just as you start to set a standard for your pricing or what people are willing to pay for your pricing, you just have to be real quick to know that, okay, that's the standard. Okay, somebody paid this for me one time. I'm never going lower than that ever again. And then that's the way you just continue to go up and up and up. And then also I would say, if you think of the way like a hotel or like a ski resort is seasonal in pricing, as you find yourself busier, rather than saying no to a project, say, okay, I would normally do this for 10 grand, but
Right.
I'm slammed right now. I'm going to do it for 40 grand. And then if they say yes, I'll be able to outsource it and still make money off of it. And then
Right.
all of a sudden, okay, these types of videos are worth 40 grand to these brands or whatever the number is that you're dealing with. And you maybe used to do it for 10 grand. And so there may be a time where you are slower, like the seasonal hotel, and
Right.
maybe you can't do it for 40 grand because they're not willing to pay it, but that sets a standard for you. And so I think it's just always trying to push that limit, because once you push that limit, now you can start doing some things. You can start getting a building. You can start adding employees. You can start adding health insurance. You can start adding 401k. But I think as artists, you can feel kind of weird, like, well, it's only going to take me like 6 days or, 3 weeks. Like I should only really charge them like 5 grand to do this, But it's like, well, if you charge them 5 grand to do this, you're never going to move out of the house. You're never going to have profit. You're never going to be able to start outsourcing things. You're never going to be able to start adding to your lifestyle or, building a company, any of that. So you've got to be able to push those limits so that you can progress things further, invest back into the business, as you're experiencing those budgets it's not a matter of just like, sweet, now I've got fun money, you know. It's like, now you've got money, you can go do things with that. You can save up, and you can go safely hire a person to come work with you, knowing that their salary's already banked for the next year or whatever the case is. So I think for me, it was just kind of like continuing to push budgets, be profitable, and then investing that money back into the business.
And have you ever gone to any of these seminar type things? Are they worth it? Are some of them good, some of them bad?
I went to one. It was a one-day seminar. Brett Morris from, is it Ranger and Fox or Fox and Ranger?
Ranger
I always
and
get
Fox.
the order mixed up on that. He and I went to one, and it was fine. I'm kind of, I don't know, I've got kind of like the Gary V mentality on stuff like that, where I'm not a huge fan of listening to someone tell me to do stuff. So it's definitely been like trial.
I was gonna say
by
I've
fire.
got some a great opportunity on some timeshares in Florida. Interesting.
I'd like more information on that.
Just come to my seminar. It's $500.
Yeah.
You take checks?
Post-dated checks. Okay, so I guess to kind of flip back to the other conversation before, because I'd like to get some other people's opinions on this as well, is we were talking about the difference between going to an online school and going to brick and mortar school, going to a university, getting the whole education as well. When you are hiring people right now, does that make a difference where they went to school specifically?
Not at all. I don't even know or care if they went to school. I'm literally not reading their email. I'm looking for the link.
Right.
And then I'm clicking the link. And then if I'm interested, I'll go back and read the email to see if they can complete sentences.
Hey,
And
there's no
that's-
dogging on people who can't spell.
No, but there's going to be some communication and trying to
Yeah.
and trying to complete a project
Yeah.
if they can't finish sentences, and you know what I mean. I definitely don't know or care. In fact, it's kind of a joke around the office. I'll ask the guy, "Do you have a degree? Like, what was it in?"
Right.
And so it's definitely based off of like the portfolio.
Yeah, no one's
for
ever
sure.
asked me for my diploma on anything ever in my life.
Yeah.
Like zero
Yeah.
clients.
So,
Zero
but I mean,
anything.
that's the nature of this industry too. I have a son who's 19. He's a freshman in college right now. And I wish he wanted to do motion graphics because I would send him to School of Motion rather than college.
Right.
Because it's just it makes sense and it's affordable.
A lot of schools don't keep it up with the technology either. They don't have the newest
No,
versions of the software.
yeah.
They don't have the plugins.
And the teachers
It's
don't know
like-
what's going on. And
No.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think with our industry, the degree, in my opinion, doesn't matter at all. It's definitely about learning the software. And, you know, there's things, obviously, art school is going to teach you that are going to be really fantastic, whether it's, design principles. But, I mean, you're a couple blog posts away from understanding the analogous color theory. You don't have to go spend 60 grand a year to understand certain,
Right.
typography rules and things like that.
What about like what Brandon brought up in our Slack today about what you learn from other aspects of education that come back around to help you in your motion graphics journey? I don't know what you call it. The things that help you in other areas, the things like learning more about history or
Like calculus?
yeah, calculus, so you can learn Houdini. I don't know. What do you think about that, though? How many people who work for you actually you feel those different aspects of their own personal lives or their journeys or their education coming into what they do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to hurt you, obviously. And my advice is if somebody's not sure what they want to do, definitely go to college, because it's gonna be hard for you to break into certain career situations if you don't have that college degree. I'll give you this story. It's literally like a nightmare story. I have a friend who, he's 45 years old now, so well into his career. Yeah, it's practically dead. So he's well into his career, and he recently just took a job. He's been in leadership, things like that, at his current position, some sort of engineering position within, it's like electrical engineering job that he's in. He's been managing teams for probably like the last decade. Well, he just switched jobs, and he put in his resignation, of course, and then the last day of his current job before he went to the new job called him up, and the HR department looked and said, you don't have a degree, therefore we cannot hire you for this position that he had already like accepted, quit, and it was all literally a checkbox on some HR form, and he could not get that job, even though he had been leading full teams for like a decade. And so that came back to haunt him like 20 years into his career. So definitely get a college degree if you're not quite sure what you want to do, because it's going to, all those things that you do learn are going to like help you. But I think for sure with like the art stuff and the motion graphics, there's just so many good resources that aren't necessarily in a classroom.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, what's going to stop him from just making a fake diploma,
Yeah.
To prove how good at Photoshop he is.
Right. I know, but like I go to, the Mograph.com school university that was around 20 years ago, but it's not anymore, so there's no one you can call, right?
Right.
Make up a fake school.
Right.
Right, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I went to University of Phoenix.
Right. No, that's yeah.
Did you go to University of Phoenix?
That's something
Columbia
that can be detrimental. I mean, like me personally, I only have an associate's, and it's only because I decided to at least get that. I was already kind of doing my own thing, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go back and finish it just so I can say I did something, before the credits run out and I don't have anything to show for it. You went to school, Matt, as well. What's your degree?
I don't remember. Applied science?
Yeah.
Applied science is the first one. I have 2 associate's degrees and enough credit hours to equal like a master's degree. Yeah. So,
You do too?
yeah, but I went for applied science, or I went to the Art Institute, which sucks. Don't ever go to the Art Institute of Dallas because it's terrible and they'll steal your money. And you don't come out with any good design skills. But I'm a great designer.
But that can vary from
Commercial.
yeah. But that can vary from place to place. Like what about Chicago though? Like what Chicago?
Chicago's a completely different like thing from the Art Institute. They're not the same company.
It's not the same.
Which is stupid.
The Art Institute, and then it's completely different.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a for-profit school. Well, I guess all schools are technically for-profit now. But yeah, that's a completely different. They're not accredited, I don't think. Or were they accredited?
I have no idea.
Oh.
They
Yeah.
sure took my money like they were.
I went to Columbia College here in Chicago, and I always love saying that because I'll meet somebody and they don't know what Columbia College is, and I'll just be, I went to Columbia, because in Chicago there's only one.
I love that I bring the mic closer to you and then
I
you
back
scoot
up.
further away.
Oh, what is that? I don't know.
Trust me, it's fine.
And
It's
so
fine.
the joke has always been like, I'll meet somebody and I just assume that they know Columbia College, and I'll be like, oh, where'd you go to school? I went to Columbia. They're like, ooh, Columbia. What was
They
your
have a
major?
motion graphics
I was like,
department.
I studied film. They're like, wow, you went to Columbia and studied film? And they're thinking Columbia University in in New York. And I'm like, no, in Chicago, it's like this little school. And they're like, oh, and they're just like, immediately their opinion of me like
Right.
drops
Bum,
like
bum,
20
bum,
points.
bum.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly, I see the benefits of school in terms of like, I agree with what you were saying. Like if somebody's going into motion design, I don't necessarily think I would recommend going to college. But if somebody were looking to get into filmmaking or maybe art or design, I do think that the college experience is great. I mean, I learned a shit ton about photography, filmmaking, editing, stop motion, traditional animation, lots of things that I don't think I would have picked up any other way. But yeah, I mean, if I agree, if my girls were like, "Hey, I want to do motion design," I'd be like, "Awesome! I'm gonna save us so much money, right? Like, here, just look at some tutorials and look over here."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it would be great to like put that college fund that I'm putting away for my kid. You know, just being like, all right, I get to keep that. That's
Just
awesome.
Steer them into.
Yeah.
Wait, you have a college fund?
Yeah, totally. Y'all don't?
Uh-oh.
Come on. I'm gonna guess y'all don't have retirements either.
What's that?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Gonna Mograph till I die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, let's talk about half res a little bit. Everybody's
Yeah.
here for half res.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
But you're not. You live here.
Yeah, I do live here. Not here
Yeah.
in this house. But
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a couple of the
Yeah, we're all crashing at your house right now.
Yeah.
What are you doing here? Get out of here.
We
Where's
got,
my wife?
Got a,
What's happening?
Where's my wife? Yeah. So, oh, jeez, Rick.
Sorry.
We broke
I think I broke him.
It's
Sorry.
hilarious at this point.
It's too late.
I know, right? Billy.
Yep.
Oh, Billy. What? Give everybody a summary of what you're going to talk about tomorrow. What's your presentation about?
Yeah, so I guess she would be considered my business partner, Julie. Technically, we have a lease and an office and all that, so we're going to be talking about like what we are. We, as in like the artist freelance collective that we co-founded back home in Detroit. We call ourselves Boxfort.
Love that name, by the way.
Thank you. So that the origins of that name is in our presentation. Just as among a number of other like kind of backstory-ish things. Ultimately, we don't consider ourselves special in any way. We're just people who work in motion design, and we were friends. As like that's one of the benefits of attending a school, is like meeting other students. And like initially the first four of us who kind of came together were friends in an advanced After Effects class doing group projects. And then from there, we took on 2 more people into our little group chat. So then we were 6. And then about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we took on another 2. We signed our lease. There's 8 of us. That's pretty much like kind of, that in a nutshell is what we plan on talking about. And then a little bit on the tail end of process, because we did the opening title show, open sequence, whatever you want to call it, animation.
Awesome.
I'm assuming that'll play when the event starts.
Hope so.
It will.
I would hope.
I heard that render is fire.
Yeah, we did it as best as we could. Obviously, it's a lot of work to generate, in this case, 2 minutes of content. Managing like client work and putting food on each of our own tables, because
Putting food on your family.
Food on your family.
Yeah.
what? All right.
It's,
I don't have a family. I've got 2 cats.
It's a George Bush joke.
That's my family.
George Bush Jr. joke.
I didn't get it either. Don't worry.
Right on.
It
Solidarity.
was
If you
a-
listen to the podcast.
Yeah, no. It was a gaffe. It was a
Jeez.
George Bush Jr. gaffe. He was talking, and he was supposed to say, "You're working hard to put food on the
People are
table.
working hard
to put food on your
their
family."
Anyway.
It's not as good if you explain it.
Yeah.
I know. It's a 2003 joke, I guess.
Right,
I
right.
don't know.
That was before my political awakening.
Ah, see, yeah. That was
you.
good.
You were
We'll have to
dormant.
find you the clip because it's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah.
You calling him George Bush Jr. is weird, because I just call him W.
The,
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
head.
The
Like,
dub-
I
the
don't know who
W.
George Bush
Is he
Jr.
a junior?
is,
I guess he's
No.
a junior. He's not technically a junior.
because there's HW
Yeah.
and then W.
The W.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, half res.
Yes, half res.
Yeah, we
Tramp stamp?
the oh boy.
Oh man.
The
If you
team,
got a Mograph.com
the team at Half Res,
transcript,
the event organizers, it's like a kind of run by committee sort of situation. Amador the one who's in charge of like finding people to make content or like bumpers and branding, etc., reached out to me in February of this year, maybe, just saying like, hey, do you want to do bumpers? Just like something small and, you know, whatever. And like any email any of us get at the office, we come in the next day and we're like, oh, this is so-and-so emailed me this, because we all do that.
Except for those NDAs, right?
Friendias.
Friendias. Yeah.
Yeah, so I came in the next day and I was like, hey, someone asked me to do a title sequence. And everyone was like, I want to do a title sequence. So then here
And
we
you
are.
arm wrestle.
7 months later. Tomorrow we'll play our title sequence.
That's awesome, man.
Well, I heard it's great. It's super locked up and secret. As
Now,
far as,
I'm going to change the subject real quick because I want to know your opinion about the education stuff that we were talking about earlier, because
Okay.
you actually teach.
I did teach.
Yeah.
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 I went to school. I then taught at the school that I had attended. Obviously, I work in this industry, so
Right.
like there's a number of facets to this that I can speak from firsthand. So what do we?
well, first of all,
what bullet point do we want to hit on first?
that chat today was insane. First of all,
Oh, okay.
Chat was fire.
that chat was
was-
fire.
So we're still
A
talking
dumpster
about the
fire.
video.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Well-
I'm curious. I'm curious as
Are
to
we saying
like,
things explicitly or like what?
No,
Are we
I'm just
being very vague.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even know what we're talking about, to be honest.
You got to be on our Slack, dude.
I've been out today. I've been out and about.
You
See
missed
what
about,
happens
You missed
when you're
about
gone one
1,800
day?
messages.
I've
Yeah.
been working. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut me
No.
some slack.
Yeah.
No. What I'm thinking is from like an educator's standpoint, right? Like, how important do you see like traditional college classes that you were teaching versus some of the like, because you were also a TA for School of Motion. You know, can you see a big difference between the two as an educator educating in college and a TA who is handling some of the classes for School of Motion?
All right.
You know, what's the big difference between the two of them?
Well, there's a
If
lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a whole podcast.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll I guess we'll try to take this in baby steps.
Because I would
So,
think that you would have a really good opinion on this because, you know, you've got both sides.
I wouldn't disagree.
There you go.
All right. So my opinion on attending, let's just start with attending school or not. Is a brick and mortar school or an online school, how do those two stack up against each other? Can one replace the other? Whatever. I would say no. Now, it's a little dubious sometimes. I'm not going to say like one institution or not, because even like brick and mortar institutions can be misleading in terms of like the scope of what their curriculum may or may not cover.
The Art Institute of Dallas, right?
Yeah. So like no one's necessarily innocent in this game, I would say. It's really hard to get an objective opinion about what like an educational experience is going to be like. It's certainly harder to figure out what a college like program is going to be like, because I feel like an online community such as like our motion graphics world is way more connected. And so like in the Slack, you know, like I don't even know if it was last night or if it was 2 nights ago, there was a discussion about design boot camp. Design boot camp being one of School of Motion's courses mostly focuses on like style frames, like pitch decks, typography, color, value, like all that good stuff. So that course in particular, I really recommend. I took it in the beta session of it as a quote unquote 3D dude. I felt like I still got a lot out of that, even though there was one assignment that touched Cinema 4D, because I still like got better at, you know, like putting things in a frame, whether they're 2D things or type, 3D, whatever. So that was like a really awesome course. I'm not going to say that every single course there is up to that same standard, because I haven't taken all of those courses. I'm not going to say that. But the beautiful thing about this online community is all you have to do is go into a Slack and say like, hey, has anyone taken this thing? Or like, has anyone taken this Learn Squared course? Or this GSG training thing? Like, you know, there's so many people, you've got so many data points to reach out to get an
Right.
informed opinion, like another firsthand, you know, review or whatever. I don't really feel like that such a thing exists for a brick and mortar school.
For sure.
So for me to say like X, Y, and Z school, like a physical school, does or doesn't stack up against like all of these different online things, it's kind of hard to say. I'll just speak from like my firsthand experience. The community college that I attended and then taught at, I would say, because it's a community college and the cost is super low, the time commitment's also lower because it's a community college giving associate's degrees, not four-year bachelor's programs. It's an easier commitment. It's a cheaper commitment. I would give that a thumbs up. Well, I'd give it 2 thumbs up because I went through that program and I feel like I got a lot out of it. But online or in person, it's all about what the student's input level, like how much effort they're going to apply to it. They're going to get, a dedicated student is going to get enough out of even a bad program, like an educational program, to still succeed, because somebody who's dedicated enough, you're not going to be able to hold them back. Like no matter how much the educational system failed them, they're going to find a way to adapt and maneuver.
That's me and the Art Institute of Dallas.
Yeah. And
So let me ask you: have you heard of Full Sail? Have you heard of
I've
Full
heard
Sail?
of it. Didn't it go out of business?
It might have. But,
Okay.
But Full
So
Sail.
I haven't heard accurate information.
There's this weird thing in the industry, and Full Sail from the aspect of like audio video, let's say, not necessarily
Okay.
motion graphics, but 15 or so years ago, when I was traveling on the road and working with a lot of people in the live industry, doing concert touring, it was always like, oh, he went to Full Sail. Oh, he went to Full Sail. But then also there were some people that like joked about the fact that, oh, you went to Full Sail. It was really weird because I was getting both ends of the conversation, and there are a lot of people that went to Full Sail that just got nothing and weren't good at anything, and there were people that went there that were just rock stars, and I'm like, well, what's the difference? And the difference is what kind of person you are.
Yeah, that's 100% present across the board, whether it's a lower cost trade school or community college, such as the program that I came through, or an online course, or even a high-end, art institute. There's going to be people who just show up.
Low end.
I meant high-end in cost.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Like at any part of the spectrum, there's going to be people who come in, they're not dedicated, they're there to show up. Either their parents just like, go to this school because like I want you to go to that school, or they went there because they thought like that's what you do. Like as a child who grew up in the 90s, like college was like, like railed into my brain at least. Maybe that's starting to change a bit now.
It's not.
Okay, well, it's not. So I went to college, but initially when I left high school, I had a pretty meager upbringing myself. And so the idea of taking on a bunch of debt, I just wrote off the table. Initially, I wanted to go into science stuff, but I wound up going to this community college, then stumbled into the video editing program, and then from there, After Effects, Maya, so on and so forth. So for me, like I just made the decision to not go into a bunch of debt, but I was still dedicated, even if I had chosen to go to a higher cost art school. I still feel like I would have succeeded because I'm somebody who was going to put the necessary effort into it. And as a teacher now at that school, and then also a TA, like in 2 sessions or 2 weeks or whatever, you can recognize who's going to succeed and who's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
And an online school is going to have a higher percentage of people who do wash out, and that's simply just because it's easier to just stop taking the class, stop showing up. Like at least I feel like in a brick and mortar school, you're encouraged. There's like attendance and whatever. Like
Disappear.
I mean, you
And if you fail the class, you can't get those student loans.
your
deferred
financial
for
aid
a
or
little
whatever.
bit, yeah.
There's more encouragement. And in a school of motion or whatever, like I don't know what the business plan is to try to combat that. I'm just a TA, like I'm not like in on their business strategy or whatever. So, I can recognize that they're structuring their lessons in a way that like they're easy and approachable in the earlier weeks, just so that you're hopefully minimizing the amount of like roadblocks that students are running into, which would then discourage them and increase, the dropout rate or whatever. They've done everything that I can recognize that they need to do to facilitate success amongst their students. And I feel like any smart online education platform would be doing that.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
think that they're necessarily special in that regard. It's just simple. If you have students who show up, they succeed, they take more classes, that's more money, more revenue. Like, duh, hello. And a brick and mortar school is just going to have more advantage, like more of that advantage built in, just because like the pressure to like show up every day. Like think of how easy it is to just like close a tab in your browser, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm not attending class today. Like that was easy versus like having to like put pants on and like go drive to campus or like walk to
Or if you
your
live
school.
there.
Exactly. Like there's just so much more like routine and like structure built into like a brick and mortar that I think completion rates are higher, but that doesn't necessarily also breed more successful students like per capita. Like I think those students are still going to need to be dedicated. They're still going to need to give a damn. And you know, like the old phrase, like you can lead a horse to water. Like you can take a student to art school. That doesn't make them an artist.
Right.
And that's applicable in every field.
Or like my old boss said, just because people don't understand you, no one understands you, doesn't mean you're an artist either. The thing though is that it still comes down to a demo reel that shows up in somebody's email.
Yeah, 100%. As Barton just said, like, you know, maybe somewhat jokingly saying like, I'm not even reading the email, I'm just looking for the link. But joke or not, that is saying the absolute number one thing is like you have to have a serviceable portfolio. Then the next step is, can you form complete sentences? Do you have a name? Like whatever. Like it should be that evident that you being able to complete client work or, you know, complete the tasks of the job, that is the utmost important thing. And it doesn't matter where you get that ability. You can get that ability on a laptop only doing YouTube tutorials if you push hard enough and like, commit enough. You know, you don't need a degree. You don't need a insert online, you know, school, you know, diploma or whatever they want to call it.
But there's other things that come into play. Number one, you know, can you follow instructions? Can you work with others well? You know, Barton, we talked about this a little bit. If you hire somebody, are they going to be able to work with your team well? How well are they going to get along with them? How well are they going to be able to, you know, bounce things back and forth off of each other and be able to rely on each other? Like your basketball analogy from the Austin 3D motion tour. The fact that there are these other skills. Where do those skills come from? Do you even learn those in college? Is it something you learn from an employer? Do you need to work for a studio first to really figure out how everything actually works before you go freelance? I
mean, in my opinion, yeah, you do need to get a job before, whether you went to an online school or a brick and mortar school. Like, at least in my program, they didn't teach us how to sit in on a conference call and take notes or write emails or sit down with a producer and talk about scope. You know, like that was all stuff that I learned on, you know, in my first full-time job. Now being a freelancer, I needed that experience. Like now I operate successfully as a freelancer, but I wouldn't be able to without that first studio job. I just don't think there's any way that an online or a brick and mortar school can impart all of that necessary knowledge. I think School of Motion's route of just focusing on, I don't want to say that they're only teaching the software, because they do teach like some good fundamental theory and like, say for example, design boot camp. But yeah, I mean, there's just no way that they can, like, how do you manage a stressful week when you're up against a deadline and like the render farm is on the fritz and like you need to start like coming up with like patch renders?
That'd be a great simulator.
Like there's this, you know, like
Kobayashi Maru.
What do I do?
Right. Like, I mean, there's no way
And
for
the
school.
producer didn't order you dinner.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you say that jokingly, but that's like that's a real thing that people run into. It's like, oh, you know, like I'm jamming so hard on this deadline, I forgot to feed myself. Like, school can't teach you that. School of Motion, community college, art school, whatever. Like, unless you go through that whole process, like in a group project or whatever, like your final year, like at that point you might as well be working, you know, at a studio with, like in an internship or as a junior position. Like that's really where you get all that good experience. Like I don't think any school can give you that, and I don't think it's necessary for an entry level, worker to have that experience. Like if they can push buttons in the software and communicate and like be instructable, that should be the baseline requirement to get an internship or a junior level position. Then all of that extra stuff that turns them into a seasoned artist will come naturally in time. Again, assuming that they're dedicated and they give a damn about like maybe making this into their career. But yeah, I don't think it's saying that, if somebody only took School of Motion classes and like maybe they're not the greatest communicator because like they've just been working, they've been given the information, they've completed the assignments, like they still have client communicating skills to work on. Like I don't think that should be a drawback, looking at them from a hiring standpoint, because somebody fresh out of art school, maybe they're better at handling seasoned critiques because like art school is, there's a lot of critique and, working alongside of other students and like giving each other feedback. But like how to write an email about like pushing back on a client request, like I don't think an art school in the world can teach you how to phrase that email.
No.
You got
Yeah.
like business people that you're working with too. Like, if you're not talking to if you're only creative, if you're only creative and you're only like focusing on like, well, this is what my render looks like, this is what my composite looks like, and then any note that comes back and you're frustrated, like that's just no way to do it. Like you have to have conversations with your producer, you have to have conversations with like the business managers and figure out exactly like what it is we're working on, what it is that they're looking for, realize that it is not like for you either. Like you have to kind of see all those invisible sides to these things. It's not just one mindset. So yeah, it's different. And like I think so many people who come in and out too, like you're just through experience, you have to kind of be a little bit of an apprentice. So if you do start out as an intern or you do shadow somewhere, if somebody is willing to let you do that, that's like the best way to learn those things, because I don't think you're ever going to get like hands-on experience. In my experience working at a smaller studio, we got better connections to that because like it's just so tight-knit. Like there's only a couple designers working and one producer. It's not like a major 200-person company or something. So like you do get to see all the sides of it. You do get to see like there's going to be pushback on their end, on your end, and it's just you're not going to get that just only being an artist. You have to talk to people outside of that too.
I got a question for the group regarding education. Chad specifically would like you to weigh in on this. So here's a scenario that I've always thought about and wondered. If you could tell somebody to pay 50 grand to go to art school for 1 year, or tell that person to approach their favorite studio and offer to pay the studio 50 grand to be there for 1 year, just to be there for 1 year, be part of the process, sit in on client meetings, be part of creative briefs, and literally just be a fly on the wall.
And the goal for this person, their career goal is what?
To end up in a 3D motion studio.
Yeah, well, there you go. You answered the question.
I think you just found your new business.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I've always said like that's crazy. Like why would you pay 50 grand to go to an art school? Well, I personally would approach my favorite studio and say, I will pay you to sit here, and I promise I won't annoy you. Just let me
but the
observe
thing
stuff.
is like when you're that age,
You got to get on the mic, Rick.
So Barton, do you have space for that to happen? I think the problem is that most studios probably don't have the space for that to happen. They don't.
Barton's got all the space in the world. You haven't
I
seen
think
all the new places he's buying.
I mean, are you?
We're in
offering,
Texas.
Barton?
We got plenty of space.
Not that I need it, but
well, the problem is that most kids at college age have no idea what they want to do. They have no. I didn't know. I didn't get in. I didn't even think I was going to get into this.
That's my son. He
business.
doesn't know what he wants to do. So he's going to community college right now.
Right. Yeah. My daughter will do the same. Like it's you don't know. And like if I had a crystal ball and I could go back in time and say, well, hey, you know what? I'm going to get into 3D motion design. Then I probably would have done that. I would try to find a way to not go into debt, not have to go to college and like go right into the workforce. But we don't have that, man. We don't have we can offer as much advice as we can to our kids and to our people that we know that are in college, but ultimately it's a road, it's a voyage they have to take and figure it out. And like they might not like it, they might want to go into God knows what else, maybe become a accountant or some god awful thing, But but I wanted to come back to one topic earlier. A lot of people talking about colleges and whatnot, and I wanted to touch on one subject. So I've hired people from that I didn't care where they went to school at all, and then I've hired people that I did care where they went to school. And the reason that I cared is because I had hired somebody that went to that school before and had a great experience. And it was actually DePaul, a school that I would have never been able to get into with my horrible SAT scores in high school. But I will say, though, that there's a value in recruiting people from a school that is hard to get into. And the reason being is because you have to be fucking smart to get into these schools. You have to have a really high score. So whenever I was hiring any technical artists, TDs, I would always look for good schools because they're gonna have a certain level of smarts.
Can you explain what a TD is?
A technical director.
Yeah, but I mean, in the scope of Digital Kitchen, which is several hundred employees, what exactly is that person, and what were you looking for?
It was a role that hadn't even been defined really at that time. No, in fact, I had to fight to even hire for that role because nobody in management saw a need for it. They were just like, "What? I don't even know what that is. Is that going to compete with our engineering staff?" I'm like, "No, they're not going to install software. Like that's not what this is." But eventually, I convinced them that like these are the people who are going to figure out how to do the hard shit. I'm going to be able to say, hey, listen, we're doing this experiential piece, and we want birds to flock in and land, and then these birds need to make a decision on whether or not they're going to fly off to a different area of the frame, and then maybe they're going to react to another bird, and I have no idea how to do that. Do you? And that's why we hire these people. So that's how I had to sell it. Like we are going to be able to do so much more than what we as designers and animators could do because we don't have that technical background. So, and then the one guy was a rigger, so we had no riggers on staff. And honestly, we didn't even really do that much character animation. In fact, we didn't do any. But I knew that I wanted somebody with that background on staff because I knew someday I wanted to be able to offer that in a job. And we actually did a couple different car jobs. And like he made an amazing car rig using the character. Help me out, Rick. What's that thing called?
Character object.
Character object. Thank you. And it was fantastic, and everybody loved it, and he totally like earned his keep. And so the two guys that I hired from DePaul, one of them is now I want to say he's really high up over at Carbon VFX here in town, and the other guy is a rigger at the mill. So you can find a school and get a relationship going with them and almost help steer their curriculum to what you want as a studio, which is a great relationship to get going. But that's just another side of the coin, another story.
Yeah, that's obviously the face-to-face interaction with either the program director at a school or just being able to get in anyone's ear is like a really good way to steer where that ship might be going. When I attended the community college that I went to, all of the 3D classes were Maya based, just because that's somebody pulled a piece of software out of a hat, and then hired somebody, and then the program was built around that. That's
they teach Maya at my son's high school when he was in high school, so he was taking Maya in like 11th grade.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
So I had
No wonder he doesn't want to go into your.
looping back around. There's a reason I'm a Cinema 4D artist and not a Maya artist nowadays.
What's that reason?
Well, I took the first two of the Maya courses at the school, and obviously I liked 3D. It was like kind of like Lego, but on the computer, which was rad. I was browsing, I think the Maya subreddit, because that's what I did. And somebody posted a GIF that they'd made, or somebody else made, or whatever, and it was Nick Campbell's early like polygon reduction deformer tutorial, when like back in the day when you could make a whole tutorial on one deformer and like fill 15 minutes worth of content like off 6 checkboxes. But like, hey, that was what 2012's educational landscape was. Anyway, in the comments I said, this is the exact tutorial, Cinema 4D, like this is 5 buttons to make this effect, cool. And you can't do that in Maya. Well, I mean, you could, but like you would need years of Maya to be able to do this one deformer. Right. And I was like, okay, well that makes sense. Like, I want to click 5 buttons and not potentially thousands of buttons.
Yeah.
So I started learning Cinema 4D at home at night, basically taking the Maya concepts that I'd learned in school, like setting up a joint structure to rig a hand. It's like, okay, well, cool. There's all these things that you want to like keep in mind, like the joint orientation and weighting and whatever. I could learn that and ask questions. Like I had a face-to-face, like a teacher, like, oh, this thing on this finger is like acting really weird once I skinned it. And he's like, oh, well, that's called weighting. I'm like, okay, well, great. Well, cool. So now I know what the word to type into the Cinema 4D documentation is, because the C4D documentation is all searchable just by keyword. I don't know if that was present in Maya or not, but I wasn't taught that there was a Maya documentation, if it exists. Thankfully in Cinema, such a thing does exist. You just right-click Show Help, and it opens you right to that thing that you clicked Help on. And that was that's basically how I learned Cinema 4D for the first year or two. It was either Nick Campbell or the help docs, because that's like what I had. And I started using Cinema. My teacher at school like recognized that I was using Maya less and pestering him more about doing things in Cinema. And then
how do you do this in Maya? You can't.
You can't. Eventually, about a year or two after I'd gotten out of the program, he had made the decision. He was now, my Maya teacher was now the program director. He made the decision to change the intro 3D class to be Cinema 4D instead of Maya.
That's good.
Which was I feel like it was a really smart, no-brainer decision, just because having less barriers to entry earlier on in a program, like I said a minute ago with how School of Motion structures a number of their courses, is if you minimize as many roadblocks as you can early on, people are going to make it further into the thing, and then you get the sunken cost fallacy starts to kick in, where they're like, oh, well, I've like been doing this for enough, like I don't want to give up. Like you're like, oh, I just sunk $80,000 renovating my basement, like I only need $20,000 more to finish. Like you've already spent all this money, like you're stuck now. But like that's actually a really good psychological motivator when it comes to planning out a course. Like you want to accelerate people getting far enough into it that they feel like a moral guilt if they give up. Like, cause that's a psychologically, that's a really good strategy.
When you get it going to university or community college or anything that you're paying like a pretty decent tuition to go.
Right. Yeah. Think about making it 2.5 years into art school, and you're like, man, I feel like I could start to get a job now, but like, you're 60% of the way in, man.
Right.
You keep pushing, you're gonna get that piece of paper. Right. Like, I mean, that's the thought. Like, everyone can sympathize with that thought. I'm making light of a potentially big dollar amount, worth of money of continuing that extra 1.5 years of art school.
Like, you're not with learning cinema too. You're not like necessarily with learning cinema. You're not necessarily alone either. So like once you get to that point where like, well, how do I do this? I feel like in Maya you would not be able to find the same resources that when you look at cinema today. You'd actually find like, oh wow, there's this community, there's a Slack, there's adversity, there's all this other stuff. So like, it's so much more easier for a student like that to be like, okay, I'm deep enough now where I understand the lingo a bit. Let me see if I can branch out. Maybe they don't even know about Show Help, because for the first 2 years I used Cinema, I did not know about that. And then when I did learn about that though, it was like, oh,
I just
cool.
learned Show Help yesterday.
But I found out about that through Slack channels. I found out about that through people wanting to share their knowledge through this, essentially, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. So I think that also is like the thing that marries into whether you're doing like an online education or not, is like do you have other people you're kind of feeding off of too, and you're kind of learning off of others too? I mean, when you're in the studio, I learn off of all my other coworkers, and this guy's doing something really cool. What are you working on? Oh, it's this thing I set up this way. I would have never thought about doing that. I would have never thought about using a null to separate out and organize my files the way that I saw Brett Morris do it in the Ranger Fox presentation for NAB, where he's using separators. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never seen such a colorful, beautiful cinema file in my life. And I'm going to start doing that, you know, and it's just like, these are the ways, but it only takes a certain point where it's approachable enough for you to learn it. And once you get deep enough, you're being able to kind of sponge off of everybody else.
And there's some universities and colleges that are stuck in a certain place because that's what they had the money for initially. I think like when I'm on the board for the college where I went to school, on the advisory board. And so one thing that comes up every year, I'm like, have you switched to Cinema 4D yet? Have you switched to Cinema 4D yet? Because it started out as...
I got this guy named Max on Rick you can talk to.
Yeah. And because it starts out as like, oh, well, we got to go down this road. And so somebody says, oh, well, why don't we do soft image? So they were stuck in soft image for so long. And, you know, it's like, okay.
Are they still around?
Well,
the school, I mean.
The school is there. I think I don't know what they're switched to at this point, but it's not cinema. And I kept saying, no, you need to go to cinema. And they're like, well, we're still teaching the fundamentals of 3D. I'm like, that's true. You're still teaching the fundamentals of 3D, but how many of those people who jump into soft image or Maya are really going to go the same route that they would have gone if they would have jumped into Cinema 4D? Because, like, I'll tell you, I started in 3D Max and other programs, like even before that, and I felt pretty good with 3D Max back on PC in like 2001-ish. And I felt pretty good, but I moved to Mac because that's when Mac really got popular, like in the early 2000s. And when I moved to that, I didn't have 3D Max anymore. And I didn't do 3D for a while. And then when I finally got a chance to look at Maya, I was like scared, you know. And if I would have gone to a college that was doing just Maya at that point, I would have been like, I don't know if I want to go this route or not, you know. But it took something like Cinema 4D to come around, and I was like, oh, okay, well, there is something that I can run on Mac that is actually, of course, now I'm back on PC, but there is something on Mac that feels a little more comfortable. Like, I'm not trying to, I don't know, I'm not trying to, like, read a manual for a month in order to learn how to do this one thing.
Yeah, and obviously kudos to the Maxon team for either one, fostering a community where people interact online and in person at meetups and stuff, and two, providing. I cannot overstate how useful a searchable help doc built into the software is, because like literally I taught like so many aspects of cinema to myself just by translating knowledge from Maya, which that could have been from 3ds Max or any other 3D program, but just like
2.8.
Well, I think it would have been 2.7 something back. You know,
heard about it?
I have now. But yeah, just being able to find a way to translate that information is so it's so powerful. It's so empowering, I should say, to the artist to be able to like, well, I don't know why the bend deformer is not working, but like, if I just right click and show help, chances are I'm going to find the answer. Or if I don't like or don't know about show help, there's a bunch of content, you know, producers making tutorials on what the bend deformer does.
But that's almost something that universities can get lost in, because there's a lot of corners to be cut when it comes to money and when it comes to funding and stuff like that. And if they're running on a piece of software because money, they might not be giving you exactly what you need. Do you feel like it's better if you're learning from the online courses because are they going to be more up to date than a university who doesn't want to, you know, buy another 100 licenses of the, you know, a new piece of software? Or
yeah, I mean that can be sort of tough, and I'm going to sidestep that question and say, even I don't want to talk about like the worst case scenario for the way that a brick and mortar school could be set up, but even in the best case scenario, like there's one teacher, maybe one TA present in the class as well, but like in the context of the school that I went to, it was one teacher and between 12 and 18 students. Like that's a pretty good ratio in terms of student to teacher, interaction. And even on my best days, there would be some students who would be sitting idle for 30 minutes because they got stuck on something and they just so happened to raise their hand like 4 hands later in the queue, and I would just go around and so, and it's like, it's kind of a first come, first serve basis when you're the teacher and there's students, who have their hand up. One student might have a really complicated question, and I can sort of get them to a certain point that they can, then keep progressing, and then I've got to loop back around to them a little bit later. But all of those other people who are sitting idle, like I can't necessarily help them. Obviously I'm telling them like, oh yeah, you can right click and show help and like whatever, but like not everyone's going to want to read a manual or read a whatever. Some people are going to want to just be instructed on what to do. They're paying money, they show up in a class, there's a teacher, they expect to learn from that teacher, not from a book or whatever, and you can't fault them for that.
Yeah.
That mindset. So even in the best case scenario, learning that information a la carte, like at your own speed, I would say, like learning online or learning at home at night or whatever. Yeah, you're going to be able to progress through educational material faster because there's not necessarily like the same sort of roadblock. Like, me teaching one person at a time when there's 18 other students sitting in that room, or if they were all just home watching the recorded YouTube tutorial that I would, I record an hour per day, and I would completely say like, you have to show up to class if you don't want to. Like, I'm going to post the lecture video. If you get stuck, email me.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll help you out.
I love teachers like you.
But
Yeah.
And the reason I'm doing that is because one, it's helping me have less students in class fighting for my attention, and two, it's going to allow them to work on their own work schedule or their own life situations or whatever, and be able to ingest that information in a way that is beneficial for them. Like, it sounds like I'm just pawning off the responsibility of them having to show up to class, but like there are tangible benefits
Right.
to having fewer bottlenecks between you and the information that you want to get as a student. Like, it sounds counterintuitive to pay to go to a brick and mortar school and then not show up to class if your teacher says you don't have to show up for class. Certainly some students are going to abuse that, but again, you just have to have that faith that the dedicated few are going to make it through the program, and they'll be better off as a result of you making that decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I did sidestep your question and saying like, oh, well, if they want to switch from teaching Maya to teaching Cinema 4D, like they did at my school, that was a multi-year process. And yeah, getting in contact with the educational licensing department to, get this number of licenses or get the license server set up or whatever, like that's a process. School and bureaucratic stuff, red tape kind of clogs up that timeline, So I don't want to paint it out like schools are, sticks in the mud who are impossible to change. But I mean, the reality of the situation is it's tough. It takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is not to be the company shill here, but because money should not be the reason for a school not to adopt Cinema 4D, we have grant programs, we have low-cost lab licensing. The struggle is typically, in our experience, it's with faculty who is equipped to teach it. And it's. It's a struggle. I understand it. It's hard to get your mind around as a teacher one 3D package, let alone change from that 3D package that you finally gotten your curriculum built around and change to another one. So we totally grasp that, but it's something that we've seen school after school is that the instruction was heavily entrenched in another 3D package, and over time, the students have demanded Cinema 4D more and more, and to the point where they've had Cinema 4D clubs that were more heavily attended than the classes for other 3D packages, and the schools were basically forced to adopt Cinema 4D.
Yeah.
But the point is not that. The point that I want to make is that because money should never be a reason not to adopt Cinema 4D as a school, for schools that would like to adopt Cinema 4D in their 3D curriculum.
Plus, Maxon has that wonderful new subscription plan.
Well, and beyond that, I mean, that's fantastic.
Come on, I was setting you up. I was setting you up to sell here.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
That's fantastic news for people who are, set me up to sell at 11:35 at night.
Right.
As a T-ball, you
That's fantastic news for your students as they're getting out of school, is that now they have an approachable avenue to get into the industry and to get access to the software. But the great thing is that when they're in school, we have a free student program.
Yeah.
So not only do we have low-cost lab licenses and grant programs so that we can get the software into the school, but when you're in school, the students have access to the software completely free. So it's really, it's an opportunity, and this is, I've been staying out of this conversation largely because, obviously we have a lot of schools that use our software, and we love that. And we have a lot of online schools that promote our software, and we love that. But my point would be, irregardless, if you have the opportunity to spend time learning the software, to learning the craft, use that time. If you've got a 4-year opportunity to sit back and not sit back, if you've got a 4-year opportunity to concentrate on learning your craft and not be pressured with the finances of life and the troubles of life, use that opportunity by all means.
Yeah.
If you can learn other things and get a piece of paper that's going to perhaps move you forward at that same time, do that.
Yeah.
But, in any case, if you've got 2 weeks that you can dedicate to learning, dedicate that 2 weeks to learning on an online school. Any time that you can dedicate, this is an industry of continuing to learn and move yourself forward. So any time that you can devote to doing that, you should absolutely do it.
Yeah.
Totally.
There's so many factors involved that you can't I see the online argument too of oh, this school's better, that school's better. It really comes down to so many factors. Some people have crazy pressure from their parents to get a diploma from a reputable thing in their vision or whatever, so it's really, like Rick said, you can learn it any which way depending on what pressures you're facing or which way you learn. I learn best by myself without someone telling it to me. So I sit there, I dropped out of art school and just learn the shit. That worked for me, and that doesn't work for everybody. Some people need somebody to crack a whip and force you to learn stuff. Everyone learns differently. Everybody needs different things. So there's not one thing's better than the other. It really isn't the case.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the unspoken, maybe one of the nuanced aspects of attending an art school that is getting lost in this online school versus brick and mortar school is, yes, you're going into debt to attend an art school, but the...
Bye, Chad.
Bye, Chad. We love
See you
you.
tomorrow.
Love you. Yes, you are going into debt, but the reason you're going into that debt is to pay for your cost of living, to pay for your tuition, whatever. You're going into that debt so that you can, quote unquote, buy that 4-year chunk of time to sit and focus on that, that educational platform. If you're only attending the online school, you're also going to have to pay your own bills and whatever these things that might eat into that time span. So yeah, you are going into potentially a lot of debt to attend an art school, but there's a reason for that. You're buying 4 years of time potentially to learn this craft, to get that. And there's obviously financial structure and financial, governmental reasons and tax and all that facilitates you going into that debt to attend that school. Whereas you can't just say, well, give me $200,000 and I'm just going to start my own freelance studio or whatever. That $200,000 art degree isn't going to buy, you couldn't exchange that $200,000 worth of debt for anything else, because that's not how loaning money works.
Yeah, the government isn't going to give anyone a Pell Grant to go sit in Barton's studio for a year.
Yes, exactly. And as amazing as your hypothetical proposition was earlier, is just unfortunately logistically that isn't an option. Unless you have that $50,000 that's either self or family financed to buy that seat for 365 days at a studio, that just isn't an option.
Yeah.
And maybe you can work part-time or whatever, and then show up to the studio part-time, find some compromise to make that work in your own life situation. Yeah, I still think if you could find a way to make that work, just showing up at that studio for a year, yeah, that's probably better than 1 year of a school, or even 1 year of online courses. Pack as many online courses into 365 days. I bet you're still going to get more out of being a fly on the wall at a cool studio. If you can find a way to make that work, it's going to sound crazy. It's not going to make sense to your family. Why aren't you going to college? Why are you're going to
working for free?
Exactly. People are going to ridicule you for lowering this barrier to entry on the low end of the pay wage. Why aren't you charging your freelance day rate or what? People are going to give you, hell for doing that, showing up quote unquote for free for a year. But you're going to come out better, probably. Hell, if you're dedicated, you're certainly going to come out better in the end.
These skills or tradesmen, you have the apprenticeship model that's always been tried and tested too. If you kind of go through those steps, you have to start out kind of somewhere, and whether or not that's the glorious salary, or if it's an internship, or kind of just making your own personal project, whatever that is, you have to start somewhere, and it's by looking at everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to here is that, if you've got the time, use it to hone your craft, but also you have to use it to build those connections to further yourself in the industry. Don't focus entirely for that 4 years on honing your craft. Go to trade shows, go, get on the Slack channels, get yourself, noticed by people like Barton, so that, he's ready, so that maybe when that email comes in, he doesn't just scan through straight to the link, but actually says, oh, hey, I know that name. It's the networking part of it is crucial as well. I mean, I went to a 4-year college, and the reason I'm at Maxon is because while I was at that 4-year college, I grabbed a freelance job with Paul Babb, who started the Maxon US office. And it's, I would say that college was, primarily the main value to me for college was making that one connection that made my career. So it's about making those connections and honing your craft. So, use the space that you're afforded to do what you can, Yeah.
I got something really quick to say that I think it's funny, this whole school debate, because we're fucking really lucky to have so many resources for doing what we fucking do.
You're right.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that it's debated and all that,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I have to say, going to a brick and mortar group projects, stuff you learn outside of school, the bonds and friendships and all the networks, everything you that's worth at least going to community college. If you can do the 4 years, go 4 years. The people that I met, and I've gotten a lot of jobs through people I met at school, because we hung out and they trust me, and they're like, wow, we need something like this for our business, stuff like that you just, Slack's amazing. I've met many of you on Slack, but it's hard to replace that brick and mortar group project mentality of, I grew up filming skateboarding, snowboarding. I am in a group project having to shoot a documentary. All right, well, how the fuck are we going to do this? Problem solving together. And I think doing either an online class and going right to freelance isn't necessarily the right path, because you have to have those critiques, those kind of
People to learn
walls,
from.
You just bounce ideas off people. And
I went to art school back in 1999, and it was or 98, and it was back when you know, VHS was still making the transition into
Yeah.
digital. And
Yep.
I went there, I had my dad's old Pentium whatever that could barely do video.
Yeah.
It was a hunk of shit, but I could barely do video. And I'm sitting there and I got to do 2 years of VHS before I'm allowed to use the Media 100 suites.
Oh,
that are
yeah.
fucking
Right.
obsolete
Yeah.
shit.
Oh,
So
don't get
I'm
me
just
started.
like, what the fuck is this place? So I totally quit. I was like,
Yeah.
this is dumb. And I quit and started a construction company and fucked off, whatever. But I retained all my relationships I made with all these
Yep.
friends at art school, and that was the most important thing I got out of the whole experience was all the people I met. And I still have tons of friends that I work with in the industry after doing 9 years of construction, getting back into this shit. I'm meeting people that I knew back then that I'm working with now.
Yeah,
which is
100%.
wild.
And I mean, I talk blindly too because I've never taken a school of motion class or anything like that. But like the people you end up meeting and like, I can only imagine the Slack groups, the Facebook groups that exist after those courses, you know, grows your network, but like it's really hard to replace the face-to-face. And we're always talking about like, you got to go to events, NAB, Half Res, Camp Mograph. Let's hang out, you know,
Camp
like
Mograph.
let's, you know, have that face-to-face interaction. And I feel like a lot of that is recommended and so beneficial because we don't get it much, right? So like
And people
that
are
just
lucky.
goes to say that it's important.
People are lucky with what they have now. I mean, you know, some of us here know what it's like to go to college and have 30 people in a class and one nonlinear editing machine. Like now you can sit and you can take these classes with what you have already in your laptop and just start. You know, there's no waiting. There's not going to, oh, sorry, you've got to take, you got
You don't have to capture DVD.
yeah. Well, I was accepted to UT, but I was not accepted into the video program. You know, I was accepted into some other thing where I'd have to sit there and take courses for 2 or 3 years before I could even get into the program to even maybe get to touch some sort of computer. You know, so I didn't go that route. You know, and I went to a community college that fortunately had enough resources. And you know, you go to these high schools now and every kid has a computer in front of them that can nonlinear edit, has a great graphics card in it, all of that stuff. I mean, it's right there in front of you. You can just grab it. So
To follow up Rick's point as well as Mark's point, the last 2 people that we've hired at ABC, one I met at Half Res 2 years ago, and one I met at LA Motion Plus earlier this year.
Well, I agree too with what you guys are saying. I said it when we first started. So it's all about networking for me. Like the 4-year college, whether or not my diploma was what mattered, it's the fact that my teacher was starting a studio in Detroit, and that, you know, he was looking for talent, and he happened to be teaching at the school, and you know, well, I was his student, and then ultimately got hired, and he hired other students through that. And then if you leave a lasting impression at the, you know, it kind of comes down to the individual. I think that's really the underlying principle here. It's like, if you're committed and motivated enough, no matter what direction you go, you will succeed. Whether or not you choose like this path or this path, you're going to get different things out of it. But at the core is, if you don't network, if you don't get to know people, that's what the brick and mortar incentivizes, is that it kind of forces you to get to know people because you have to be there. But at the end of the day, like, you have to leave a lasting impression on people. You have to say hi. You have to show up to things. You have to, you know, get over your kind of.
it takes
you know-
initiative.
Yeah, exactly. And whether or not you're lucky enough, like me, to have a teacher that is starting a studio and is hiring, whether you still have alumni networks, you know, and at the end of the day, there's a reputation that comes from whatever institution you're going to, you know. Oh, I went to that school. You can immediately connect, whether or not you had a good experience or a bad experience. I'm sure with your Art Institute of Dallas, right? Like, you could connect with somebody who also went there and maybe didn't have a good experience too. And you could connect over that, and maybe it could lead to some other trajectory. Not because it's like, you know, oh, we learned all these great things together. It's just that you,
Hi, Instagram,
what up?
or whatever.
So yeah, it really comes down to who you are.
I mean, to be honest, and like, I don't know, this is comes from like my point of view, where I went to college and, you know, stayed on campus, did that whole thing. I come to events like this, I meet people, and like, you know, hey, Dave, we shared a beer, hung out at Half Res.
What's up, bro?
Hey, you know, like, I might need help with something. Like, he seemed really cool. I checked out his work. Like, we had a bond. We talked for a while. Okay, I'm gonna like trust him to like help me with something. you don't necessarily get that from just like being on Slack or
Right.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
you start to gain that trust, but like, I don't know. It's all about the
Well,
human
bottom line
contact,
is,
if you
I
will, right?
hire a lot of people too, and it's like I'm not hiring people I never met a lot of
Right.
the time. I hire people I met, and there's lots of talented
Yeah.
people out there. There's not really a shortage of like people that are competent that can pull off a fucking job, whether it's like rotoscoping or some 3D modeling, whatever. There's a lot of people out there that can do it. But just the fact that you met someone, they're personable, you made an impression, just gives you a leg up, because it's not like, oh, you're the only person that can do this job. Like, I mean, we're not all that special. A lot of people know how to use cinema and
Yep.
After Effects and lots of other shit.
Yep.
So it really does come down to, meeting people, being personable, asking people about them, like just that's
Totally.
like basic rule number one. Hey, ask people
Yeah.
about them so
Yeah.
that people like you. That's
Yeah,
like
totally.
such a simple life lesson that so many people don't do.
Mm-hmm.
Never ask anyone about other people and just like seem like, self-interested dick. It's like no one wants to work with you when you're that guy.
Well,
That's
let
like,
me just encourage the introverts out there that
Well,
it may seem impossible, but just walk up to someone and say, "Hey, I'm your name here,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I use Cinema 4D
yeah.
to do X, or I'm hoping to do X, or whatever." Go into a Slack channel and say, "Hey, I'm your name here, and this is my goal."
Yeah, not to
And
say that people who
the,
don't.
the great thing is we do have a fantastic community. Like, nobody's gonna say, "Oh, get out of my face." Like,
Totally.
everyone in this motion graphics community, not the Cinema 4D community, the motion graphics community, is going to say, "Hey, how's it going? Well, let's talk," and they're gonna be welcoming. It's a great community.
Yes,
so I know it can be hard for the introverts to jump, and I'm by nature an introvert, but it can be hard to jump out and say, "Hey," but it's just necessary. You just do it. You take that first step, and then it's easier the next time around.
You have to try and be an extroverted introvert. Or
Well, we're
introverted
all
extrovert.
fucking nerds.
Yeah, that's
So
the
let's
thing.
just nerd out
Yeah.
on fucking right.
I mean,
Like,
go talk
come
to
on.
Chris Schmidt about like how introverted he was at first and where he's been, and I think that it's a really great story. Hopefully, we should ask him about that next time he's on the show. But it's really, you just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, whether it's you're taking online courses or you're at a brick and mortar school, if you're willing to talk to your neighbor or you're willing to strike up a conversation with whoever, whatever, like you're all there for the same reason. Like in the case of School of Motion, you take a class, they add you to a Facebook group, boom, you're immediately connected with 50 other
Right.
or 100 other, or however many other students that do the thing that you're doing. And boom, right there, you've got like a list of names to like look out for and recognize online. You're seeing their little, avatar picture, and, assuming you're following any other good advice of like, being present online or trying to get your work out there, you're going to succeed, meeting these people, striking up conversations, maintaining your online presence or whatever. That doesn't necessarily require you to be like super extroverted. Like hell, just keeping your website or your reel up to date, and like, if you're a part of a Slack community and you don't like, or you feel overwhelmed keeping up with all of these discussions, but like, hey, when you finish a project, go drop it in the share channel and like hang out for the next 30 minutes
See
while
what people say,
send you fire emojis and like even that is like a
Do you want to critique?
I mean, yeah. I mean, hell, like even that's a low, low effort way to, or lower effort way to like start, getting into this, stuff. Like everyone, we're all completing work or trying to make personal projects or student projects, whatever. Just post them up there. I know it's daunting to go out and seek that feedback. If you're an online only student, you haven't run the gamut of like what it's like to get like, critique from a teacher or whatever. Like you're going to have to get over that. I'm sorry. 'Cause your art director or whatever they're going to give you all these same notes, like, hey, that was whack. Or like, dude, this was great. Like you're going to hear that. You're going to hear both of those 1,000 times in this industry. The earlier you're able to like get over that hurdle, it's it's going to be super important. I know it's hard. Like I feel like I was a more introverted person prior to getting into Mograph, and like I just like chat rooms. Like AOL was a thing when I was in middle school, and now Slack is just that. But like
ICQ forever.
yeah,
I think there's a big there's so many facets to what we do too that it doesn't hurt to not specialize, but just get really good at a few things. Like just go hard on hard surface modeling or like character rigging, or just like figure out a bunch of things to try and set yourself out so you're the guy in your social group that everyone goes to for a certain thing. And you can get really good at certain things. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be, you know, there's a lot of pressure to kind of be a good generalist too, but I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of specializing in a few things to kind of set yourself out in your own group. Because even though we're all part of bigger groups, everyone's in smaller groups too, and you can kind of cut out a niche in a sub-market in a lot of ways. So I think that's pretty important.
no, that's super good advice. Like the amount of times that people at me anytime there's like a car render.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, like I'm not, like I've never worked at. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like it's cool to be like the car guy in Cinema 4D. It's like, but yeah, that's like a little niche within a niche, and you know, to kind of bridge into another topic is like finding ways to implement your hobbies or stuff that you like as a way to like jumpstart making that personal work or making that student work. That's
I always say people only hire you for what you've kind of proven you can do. They're not gonna be like, that guy
That's
might
definitely
do
true in your
way out of
case.
it.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
in my case for sure.
Yeah,
but for most people, like they're not gonna take a big risk on most people. Like a client or an ad agency is not gonna get you to do something totally out of your realm. You got to bust that ground yourself. You got to break down those doors and try something new, throw it out in the world, and then maybe someone will hire you to do it.
And you were just saying that in Toronto.
Yeah.
I was just watching your thing. That premieres Thursday, by the way, on Mograph.com. Yeah, you were talking about that. You have to put those things out there that you want people to hire you for.
I take breaks every year or two to do a new personal project that is a new bunch of weird shit to kind of break down those same doors.
Yeah, but it can be daunting to build up to that. You've obviously been doing this for a few years, and I can recall being a student and like spending a week. I was like, oh my god, I spent a week on this terrible GSG 5-second animation, whatever. Like if you go back on my Vimeo and you go all the way back, like I'm sure it's still up there. But like that was something that like it took a lot of effort for me to make, and there are ways to like life hack your way into making more personal work. In my case, I really like bringing in outside hobbies. Like I like cars. It's like I like rendering in Cinema 4D. Well, shit, like let me render some cars, and like I can practice lighting and working with volumetric lighting or like whatever, and I can just find these excuses, quote unquote excuses, to learn new buttons in the software. Because it's like, maybe you really like robots. Well, like build, like 3D model the robot and then learn how to rig the robot and like whatever. Like it could be something from an anime or a cartoon or whatever that you like, just like find a way to take something that you like outside of motion graphics and shoehorn it into motion graphics so that you like do it.
Like be the only Cinema 4D crochet guy.
Yeah, if you could learn how to weave. Yeah, if you, I mean,
it all together.
yeah, you
I don't
say
know, that sounds like Mark. That sounds like Mark Fancher a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you say that jokingly, but learning how to learning how to do a cloth weaving simulation, like you could be the cloth weaving person.
Oh, dude, I was talking to Marty Romances from Territory Studio. He said he knew of a guy who only does mustache rigging, like upper lip, fucking specialized.
Wow.
It's hyper specialized. Mustache guy, Hollywood mustache guy.
Wow.
Like it gets that.
I don't recommend that.
Hey, you never know. You could get that movie with all like period piece with a bunch of crazy mustaches.
Well,
Bank it.
it's getting a little late here at the old Airbnb, but before we go, I did want to.
We're doing People's People?
No, no.
If we're doing People's People on the last week,
No. I did want to talk to Mr. Balls.
Mr. Balls.
Mr. Balls. Mr. Smearballs. Real quick, we didn't talk to you about half-res.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're presenting.
I've been
too.
waiting
Yeah.
for a
Presenting
good
too.
segue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, the whole conversation has been
Right.
really good.
Yeah.
I still don't know what I'm gonna do. I put way too much shit in a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm just gonna wing it and skip stuff if it's not going well. We'll see. No, it's gonna be good. I think I got some funny Conan stuff from back in the day. I got some more current stuff. I've got some. I'm gonna jump into R21 and play with the Mixamo rig a little bit.
Cool.
That new stuff. Have some fun with that.
You've
I
been
don't know,
doing a
got
lot of
bunch
speaking stuff lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. After NAB, these Maxon people got me on this thing. I've never done one of these things before, and this year I'm gonna do 15 talks because of you.
Yeah.
guys,
Holy
right?
cow.
That's how it starts.
There you go.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm going to Japan. I went to France already. I'm going to Holland in a couple weeks. I'm here. It's crazy.
But actually, if you're not going to talk about it tomorrow, we should talk about how it all started.
Oh yeah, like 2009.
Was it?
My-
No, it
my
was earlier
tutorial?
than that, wasn't
It
it?
was 10 years ago.
Oh,
It was, I
gosh.
just looked today because I went on a
Okay.
Vimeo.
Oh,
my one and only tutorial, 3D balls mapping, how to make a hairy scrotum and balls.
Yeah.
in Cinema
Yeah, yeah.
4D
With
using
chicken skin
with
textures.
Skin texture, yeah.
It's funny 'cause
Yeah.
Rick and I were at NAB, and it came up that I made that stupid tutorial years ago, and he's like, "You made that thing?" And then he told me it made the rounds at the Maxon office.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
in 2009.
It
I'm
was
like,
seriously
yes, my work is done.
seriously, oh, you're that guy moment.
Yeah.
Hey, that was one of the most popular Cinema 4D tutorials
It,
for a while.
it was
blew
the
up.
most popular Cinema 4D tutorial for a while. We went from hairy scrotum balls to shiny
I
spheres.
sold a lot of
Yeah.
licenses for you guys. I sold a lot of licenses. People were like, they watched that and they bought like a $3,000 Cinema 4D seat.
Oh man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So how many are you doing on the Maxon tour? The
Oh, I only
3D
did the
design
one
post
in
motion.
Toronto.
Is that the only one? But you're doing some other cities for some other events too.
Yeah, all kinds of other cities, other events.
There's all these dang events nowadays,
Yeah.
man.
Oh
There's
man,
so many.
it's so crazy.
Doing like 6 in like
so
3 months.
many
Yeah.
events.
Yep.
yeah. So
I mean,
if-
Camp Mograph's really the most important.
So for all of you who are looking for a way to get connected to the Maxon community, there are ample opportunities because there's an event near you.
that's right. That's right. Well, we usually every week.
Living out of a suitcase somewhere.
Right.
People
Matthias
in
is-
North America.
Matthias is somewhere right now. Actually, last week, which if you're listening to this on audio, which is actually yesterday, we gave you a preview of all the ones that are coming up. We will be giving you a preview of all the cities that are coming up after that, starting next week. You're also going to be able to check out some of the panel on a lot of these tours. We're going to post those as well, but you don't get to experience the whole thing unless you actually go. You don't get to get the like near $1,000 worth of software if you don't go. But I would recommend checking these out. There's a different panel every single time. There's project files that you get. There's a lot of people that you get to meet when you go up to these events. So make sure you check that out. What's the website, Rick?
3dmotiontour.com.
3dmotiontour.com. That's right. 3D.
Yes,
3dmotiontour.com.
Or something like that.
Or something like
.com.
that. .com. 3dmotiontour.com. That's
Well,
what it is.
and I think that just to underscore that, the panels that the Mograph guys are kindly reposting are different in every city.
Right.
But there's 2.5, 3 hours worth of training content
Yeah.
in Cinema 4D that really will, it's really aimed to take someone who really is not yet, is just starting to think about jumping into 3D. And
So if you
and
know
give them
anyone who's-
both inspiration and a jumping off point.
Yeah, if you know someone who is really looking to make the jump into Cinema 4D, especially a lot of After Effects people, tell them about this tour because it's got a lot of really good information in it.
Absolutely, and it's content that was created by Perception, who's creating all the FUI stuff for all the Marvel films. I mean, it's the stuff that you ogle at all the time, and they've created some great content, and we've got some great presenters who have fashioned that content into some really great learning material, and you get all the scene files.
Yep.
And you get 3 months of Cinema 4D, 3 months of Redshift, a month of
Just the software deal is
month
worth
of Adobe
Yeah.
Creative Cloud. I mean, you
$100
really have
kit
the
bash.
everyday's toolkit. Yeah, $100 a kit bash. You really had the everyday's toolkit. So you're
Think
destined
how
to
much
success
freelance
right
work
there.
you can do in 3 months.
Like I said, it's the ultimate
know.
starter pack.
Yeah. So definitely check it out in a city near you.
And I think this discussion today is really only the tip of the iceberg. If you are, if you're listening to this on audio, then this Friday, which is a different day than we usually do it, we're going to have Brandon Parvini on live, which is next week as far as audio is concerned. And we're going to talk a lot more about this, and I'm sure that the conversation will continue when we have the mega show, which I don't think we've really talked about much on the show yet, have we?
That's
I
gonna
don't
be-
know.
Let's
So-
talk about that.
That's been
Mega show.
yeah. The mega show is going to be Ryan Summers, Christo, and then
Joey Kornman.
Joey Kornman from School of Motion. I think that's going to be really good. I think it's going to be interesting because I think that the episode with Brandon is going to be a lot different than the episode that's the mega show.
Yeah.
So I think we need to bring this up in both cases. I think it's going to be really good. Now the mega show is going to be October 28th, so we're kind of advertising that early. So I think this is just tip of the iceberg.
That's going to be a discussion with these people who are running or involved with the different online learning
They're gonna be
institutions.
shit talking the brick and mortar schools big time.
That's why we have to have Brandon on to balance it out. We got to get both sides.
Yeah,
of
I mean that discussion is still alive and well on Twitter and in the Slack, the Mograph.com Slack, of course.
We just need people to fight in a ring and
yeah,
Yeah.
have it out.
We need celebrity deathmatch for motion designers.
American Gladiators.
Yeah.
I think the end result is the
Ninja
biggest
Warrior,
takeaway.
full tilt.
The biggest takeaway on the school thing is if a person's going to be dedicated, they're going to succeed in whatever learning avenue they choose.
Absolutely.
I guess a lot of people want to say, is the brick and mortar experience necessary in 2019? Mark, you said it's awesome that we have so many options to even have a debate. That's great that we have that possibility. And again, obviously everyone's going to want to take the side that they went through, right? Like when you buy something, you like to defend it.
It's not true.
I mean,
Well,
for the most part,
Yeah.
if you buy a Samsung
yeah.
TV, you're going to be a fan of Samsung TVs, and you're going to hate Sony TVs. It's the
Sony.
same thing in this online or brick and mortar education thing.
Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just if you know somebody who wants to be a student or get into this field, just do everything you can to encourage them to succeed. If you're a loved one or a parent to a potential student, that's the goal. Nurture that student in whatever avenue they're going down, or encourage your friend or whoever it is. I think that should be the takeaway. Obviously, we all want everyone to succeed,
right.
Unless you're a jerk, then
Yeah. Yeah.
we don't need to get mad at each other.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, it's a great conversation, and everybody has been so great in having a very awesome, positive, civilized conversation about it. I think.
Let's please keep it that way.
Yeah.
Let's please keep it as civilized as it has been up to this point, because
No throwing chairs.
not every Twitter thread stays this nice for this long.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think I've ever seen a nice Twitter thread.
All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. It's getting late. I
gotta make breakfast for everyone tomorrow.
I know.
I know. I see those pancakes over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be over at 8:30.
Bring
About
it on.
8:30. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Bring it
seriously.
on.
If you are, we'll
bring
make
it on.
pancakes.
Yeah. We got a little time to sleep in and chill.
I'll
before
probably
we,
get up around 8. I normally get up around 8.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun. Half Res is gonna be great. If you are just happen to be catching this tonight and you're gonna be there tomorrow, come say hi to us. And we're gonna get out of here. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review. You can also subscribe to us on your podcatcher of choice. That helps get our ratings up. We really appreciate that. You can subscribe to our newsletter at mograph.com. You can say you've been there, done that, got the T-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babfield, the Bab 2020 shirt. All the profits from that go to Doctors Without Borders. Then there's the Render Things T-shirt and hoodie as well, if you'd like that. You've also got the That Render is Fire shirt There's some more hoodies and stuff that you should like check out. Oh yeah, the Camp Mograph hoodies we should probably put out there as well.
No.
No?
We didn't order any.
Well,
if you're
we
in
can
the
put
Slack
them-
and you want
we
one.
can put
No,
them on
it's too
Amazon.
late. I
Order
already
it by
ordered them.
3 p.m. Friday.
Thank
You're
you.
not getting it.
You're like the only one who reads every other message like I
there you
do.
go. But you know, we can put those up online, you know.
You can get volume 2.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
you know what? It was last Friday that you asked about that?
It might have been
Yeah.
Monday, actually.
It was Monday.
Yeah.
it was Monday.
Because I have no concept of days after work.
I don't
It was
think so.
yesterday.
That feels like Friday
Yeah.
to me.
Really does.
It was literally yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to Camp Mograph in a couple of weeks. It's going to be awesome. I really can't wait. We've been working really hard on that all year.
I just want to throw it out there. If for some reason someone is interested in a ticket to Camp Mograph, we've had a couple of people who have said that they can't go and they're looking to sell their ticket. Contact us and we'll let you know.
There you go.
So
All right.
I'll at least throw that out.
match make this ticket swap.
Yeah,
Deal.
yeah. We've had at least like 2 people who are looking to sell their tickets.
Just
So
FYI, the app to sell the ticket is not Tinder. Okay. Just letting you know, it's Camp, not Tinder.
Yeah.
just email
hit us
email
up.
us
Bad joke, okay.
email us info@campmograph.com and we'll hook you up.
So we're gonna get out of here. Thanks everybody for being on and
Where
doing
can
this
everyone find
crazy
each other?
thing. Yeah.
On the
well,
things.
if you want to find me, I'm at mograph.com.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mr. Balls.
Smearballs.com.
Alex.
AlexChopjian.com or lunarnorth.tv.
Spell that for us.
My last name?
Yeah.
AlexChopjian.com, or you can find me at the company I work for, Lunar North, LUNARNORTH.tv.
And then my website's Gernge, GERNGE. Mm-hmm. You can find me in a Slack. You guys know me.
Mark Cernosia or Camp Mograph or Monday Meeting, however you want to find it.
Straight up.
At Barton Damer, BartonDamer, or at Already Been Chewed.
You can find me at maxon.net. Cineversity.com. I am Maxon Rick.
Maxon
or
Rick.
at Rick and Roll in various places.
There you go. Chad is gone, but I think everybody knows where to find him at Grayscale Gorilla.
I'm Ben Carmeli. You can find me at smearballs.com. At Ben Carmeli, most social media, and my website, bencarmeli.com.
And then back there in the corner is Pickle Nick. Hi, Pickle Nick. Hi, Pickle Nick. Where can people find you?
I guess I have an Instagram.
You do have an Instagram now.
Mograph.com.
On Instagram.
Yeah, there you go. And the Slack, of course. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, of course, YouTube, Mograph.com. And I think that about wraps it up. I'm ready to go to bed.
Let's go to bed.
y'all. And then Matt can make me some breakfast.
Yep.
All right.
And in the morning, I'm making waffles.
Oh, man.
And on that bombshell.
Yeah, on that, I'm Dave.
Oh, and I'm Matt.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
Later, yo.
I messed that up. Sorry. All right, now the chess match of school. The school talk. Thanks everyone for coming out. Yeah.